Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Nearly Enlightened podcast. I am joined by my good friend, Amy, today. Amy is a passionate entrepreneur. She's a multi-certified breathwork facilitator, a breakthrough coach, and she's certified in Reiki. She is here to educate, inspire, and help others break free, transform their lives, grow, and align with purpose through breathwork, in-person and virtual events. She is the queen of events, a true Gemini at that. Private breathwork sessions, coaching, and transformational programs. She is based in Rhode Island, my hometown, and travels the US holding transformational events, retreats, and workshops. She has a studio space in Rhode Island for private breathwork clients and also hosts private breathwork sessions virtually. She is literally the queen of events. Amy, welcome.
Welcome. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited for today.
I am so excited this finally worked out. We've been planning this for a while, and I'm excited to have you on. I've also been working with breathwork for a really long time, but more in the sphere of yoga. So, how does your breathwork differ from that? Because it's a little different.
Yeah, so there are many forms of breath work. The breath work that I facilitate, it's a 3-part breath. It's a breath nice and deep into the belly, fill up the chest and out. So it's one circular breath pattern with your mouth nice and wide open. I know other forms of breath work. There's like box breathing that the Navy SEALs do. There's just some like different calming type of breaths. What are some of the yoga, like breath of fire?
Yep. One of my favorites is also alternate nostril breathing.
Yep.
Nadi Shodhana. That's like one of my favorites because it really commands people back to attention and brings you back to the present moment. So I like love using that as a tool. And then just good old like big belly breathing.
Yes.
Love that. So when I first became a yoga teacher, so this statistic is probably a little outdated at this point. I think this study was done back in 2010. But when I first became a yoga teacher, I came across this and it literally blew my mind, but it was done from the American Heart and Lung Association. And they concluded that on average, the average American only used about 10% of their lung capacity. I was like blown away by that because they're such big organs.
Here.
And then later on, I did a cadaver lab and I really got to see how the lungs actually work and how the diaphragm works and how big the lungs actually are. And to use only 10%, like we're literally only using this like top like third of our lungs. And that was like super eye-opening to me.
Yeah, I would say like 9 out of 10 people, you watch them walking around with their fist clenched and they're just doing these like very shallow upper chest breaths and not breathing into the belly. When we're born, if you look at a baby, babies actually breathe into the belly. If you look at animals like my dog under my desk right now, they breathe into the belly, and something as like life happens, us as humans, the breaths get shallower and shallower. So different forms of breath work is really amazing to reconnect with your breath and get some of those like deeper breaths.
And I think so many of us have been conditioned to think that like if we breathe deep and people can hear us breathe, that's like rude.
I at one point on my journey, because I've been involved in breath work, this month actually marks 3 years of me participating in breath work.
Oh, wow.
But what I realized is I was going along and I was actually closing my nose off and trying not to breathe. And like, then I'd only breathe like very little. So it was like, I was just like conditioning myself to like hold my breath in. And through breath work, I realized that I had this pattern going on and I pretty much taught myself to breathe way better than what I was used to breathing.
So what brought you
silly?
No, it doesn't at all. I've done the same. Like I remember being in like probably elementary school and doing that same thing, like breathing as shallow as I can because like God forbid anyone heard me take a big breath.
Yep.
It's so weird.
Yeah. And I think just as we grow older, stress happens, anxiety happens, and somehow it alters our breath. So in finding breath work and learning how to breathe a bit better, it's just definitely been a game changer.
How did you start your healing journey?
So it's definitely not linear. I feel like it's been many different points in my life, without getting like too deep into it. When I was 19, I had 2 near-death experiences in a 2-week period.
Whoa.
Yeah, it was a car
Your soul
accident.
was like making a decision whether to stay or go.
Yep. And I honestly, like, I actually felt myself, because the second part of it, first was the car accident. The second part of it, I had an allergic reaction to a pharmaceutical that was given to me at the hospital. And I felt my body, like, I kept looking at my mom, like, don't let me die. I'm dying. Don't let me die. And the minute I saw the doctor's eyes, I went lights out, and I woke up like the next day in ICU. And it was just like, woof. So like that day, my life changed in a really big, really big way. So I think that was a big part of my healing journey. But at the same point, I walked out of that situation. I'm good. I'm good. I am so good. I'm fine. Don't worry about me. Everyone and anyone that was in my life was worried about me. And I'm like, I'm fine. I'm fine. So I think over the years, I learned that like different portions of that specific part of my journey, I did have to go deep inside and kind of like look at it, and then like see what I had to let go, see what was kind of like my truth in my head, and then what the real truth was, and kind of go from there.
How did you get brought to breath work?
So breathwork. So I originally was going to sign up for an event, I believe in 2019, in-person event. So it was before the whole 2020 thing. And I am the master of waiting to the like clicking. If I want to do something, I'll click quite a few times. And I'll be that last minute, like the day of the event. Because I'm like, what if I don't feel like doing it on that day? Like,
Do you know you're human design? Are you a projector too?
Nope. I am manifesting generator. But that's just like my, like, for me to commit to something like a month in advance, I'm like, nope. Nope. So
I'm the same.
like,
I'm the same way. Like I want to say yes, but then like when it comes down to it, like the last hour before the event, I'm like, okay, does this really align?
Yep. Yep. So what happened in 2019 when I was like going to do this huge breathwork event locally here in Rhode Island is I go to click the ticket because I was going, sold out. And I'm like, okay. So I feel like at that point I was like in that like work mode. I was traveling a lot with work. It was like I was so busy being busy that I wasn't taking time for myself. Fast forward, I think that might have been like fall of 2019. Fast forward to March of 2020. Boom, here pops up a virtual breath work like on my screen. And it was like just at that like point where everyone was stuck at home. Well, almost everyone.
Except for us in Arizona.
Oh yeah, see. Well, in Rhode Island, yep, we were stuck at home at that point.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, why not? Click. And I had no idea what I was getting myself into. I was literally in my office at home on a yoga mat on the floor, put my headphones on, and I went through this breath work. Like it was like a 2-hour breath work event, and it knocked my socks off. And I had no idea that virtually something could like be that. I almost want to say intense and transformational, and yeah. And I'm like, I have no words. So that's the day that started my breathwork journey.
And then you shortly became a facilitator after that, or did you like know right away that you had to lead groups like this?
I would say within the first like 3 to 4 breathworks that I did, I was like, whoa, I need to learn more. That was like step 1 is I need to learn more and I need to do more of this. Step 2, I was like, oh, I feel really good. And people were actually starting to comment on how much they've seen like changes in me for the positive. And then I was like, I need to learn this so I can like teach other people, like, and like facilitate breathwork to people. So it was, I believe this summer will be 2 years. I'll officially be certified to teach breathwork.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yep.
Let's see. What would you want listeners to take away from this episode?
That's a good question. I would say that if anyone is ever feeling stuck or feel like they have to break free, that there are definitely like a lot of alternative things out there. And if they haven't heard it, like there's yoga, meditation, there's like sound baths. Breath work is of course my number one at the moment. That there's different alternative methods that if they're feeling stuck, they can tap into versus like going to like pharmaceutical type of things. I've just
That's how
seen
I feel. Like I just want, like I've acquired all of these tools. Like I feel like I have a big healing toolbox at this point, and I just want to share the tools that worked for me.
Mhm.
And I like having this platform, having this podcast. I just want to share other people who also might have tools that are a little bit different than the tools that I use, and to highlight those because there is something out there for you. You just have to figure out what it is.
Yeah, 100%. Like I have a couple stats right here. They might be a little bit outdated, but 1 in 13 people worldwide suffer from anxiety. Like that's like worldwide. So pick 13 people one of them suffering anxiety.
And I would even say that it's probably even more than that
More
at
than
this
that.
point. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, speaking as
It's
someone who I've dealt with, the first time I had a panic attack, I was like, I think I was 10. I was like 10 or
mhm.
11.
Yeah.
And that is kind of like what brought me, in my mid 20s, I was like sick of my own fucking shit. And I was like, I need to gather some tools to help me with this because I can't keep living this
Mhm.
way.
Yes, 100,000,000%. And it's like me finding breath work when I did is when like the world, it was like all the news was getting blasted, all the like fear was getting blasted. And here I found this modality of breath work and I was like kind of like floating on my own little bubble. Like, so yeah, it definitely, there are tools out there that can help with stress, anxiety, worry, panic attacks. And it's really just like coming back to your center and like learning about yourself and learning what works for you.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's like literally what I say, like pretty much every single podcast.
Yep.
I just want to drill that home to everyone until like, we heal our little section of the world.
Yes, I agree. 100%. 100%.
So I always ask people this, but what's your hot take and unpopular opinion?
I have quite a few, but in relation to like personal experiences, is I have I have a strong opinion on pharmaceuticals and implants particularly. I have a few different stories that relate to my own personal experiences, some with pharmaceuticals and in relation to anxiety. An elderly family member that I love so much ended up, to be able to sleep, got prescribed a form of a benzo. More research I did, I found like articles from I believe from England, because they're not blasted out over here. And we literally had to taper her off. I had doctors like cornered and they were like, off the record, I recommend you to taper her down on them. Like, because of her age, she should have never been on these particular medications. And like I just watched her go from one person to really bad to like then getting her off of the medication. And she's just never really like changed. Thank God she is not currently still on it, but I just feel like there's some medications that like warning signs should really be read before just jumping on it to quote unquote like sleep
Yeah, I
or
mean, we're
reduce anxiety or
Western medicine doctors are just so quick to write a script and just be done with it. I mean,
yeah.
I have had ovarian cysts that rupture since I was 12, and it causes extreme pain. I was
Mm-hmm.
hospitalized for it when I was 12, 13, I think 12 and 13. And the fix was, oh, well, go on birth control.
Mhm.
So the first time I was prescribed birth control was 12 years old. My parents were like, absolutely not. But then it got so bad that no one gave us another option. Like, oh, well, you could do like you could balance your hormones. You could do a parasite cleanse. Like these are things we don't talk about in the Western world. They just want to write a script and like send you on your way. And I think
Mhm.
in our generation, they gave away birth control prescriptions like it was fucking M&Ms.
Mhm.
And so I think I was 14 by the time I was on birth control, not sexually active at that point, but just literally on it because that's what
There
stops
you go.
ovarian cysts. But it's like, no, that doesn't stop them. It just is a band-aid. Like you're shutting your
Mhm.
hormones off and having artificial hormones. So now your body can't create those cysts anymore.
Mm.
But never really got to the root cause of it until I was like well into my 20s and I had been on birth control for like 10 plus years at that point. Like that is
Mhm.
crazy. And I had, when I came off birth control, I got my period 3 times in a year and a half. And my doctor was like, oh, that's normal. Your body is just like trying to figure out how to create hormones again. So I literally went through puberty again in my 20s. It was wild. Like
Yeah.
same puberty symptoms, breaking out, weight gain, and like that chubby kid weight gain where it was like in my face and in my belly. It was absolutely crazy. And it took me, I mean, I still like now I've been off of it for like 8 or 9 years. And I still feel like there are times where I'm detoxing from it. And one of my friends who's a clinical herbalist, she has research that says that it takes your body as long to detox a pharmaceutical like that as you were on it. So I was on
Oh,
it for like
wow.
12 years. So like I'm not at that point yet. So like I
Yeah.
probably am still dealing with
Wow.
effects from it. And
Yeah.
it's like things we don't talk about. There's a time and a place for Western medicine, but it's just gotten so out of control that like we need to find center. We need to come back and find center in that as well.
I 1,000,000% agree. I definitely think there are some things where regular Western medicine pharmaceuticals are 100% needed. But on the other hand, there is that like over prescribing, overuse, and then like a lot of these things, people get on them and then there's no identified way to get off of them. Or like the side effects, you might get the little pamphlet, but does anyone read that? Like of what the side effects could be? Like, it's a million side effects.
I
And
know.
like it's
And
not actually discussed at like the doctors.
yeah, no. And I mean, the birth control side effect thing is like a literal novel. It's huge.
Mhm.
Like there are so many side effects and like it's just
Yeah.
really scary. Like we're just handing it out like it's no big deal,
Candy.
but it's like it is a big deal. Like you're actually shutting off women's hormones and then giving them artificial hormone therapy. But like we don't even view birth control in that way, even though that's what it is.
Mhm.
So now, like for me, I've been taking a deep dive into root cause wellness, and there's a doctor that I follow like religiously. Her name is Dr. Jess Petros, and she is a champion of this work. Like I will sing her name from all of the rooftops. Like I love what she's doing. I love her work, and um like I'm slowly uncovering what my baseline of health is now, like working with some of her philosophies.
Mhm. Because I think there's like a really big thing is like once you realize how unhealthy you've been for so long, I'm just thinking about my own story, is like and on whatever medication or whatnot, and how unhealthy, once you start to uncover health again, it's like, whoa, this is what I've been missing because of XYZ. Like it's very interesting
Yeah.
rediscovering your own health.
Yes.
Mhm.
I've been in layers of this journey as well. Like I was plant-based for 7 years and
Wow.
going back to eating meat or a more animal-based diet, my joints stopped cracking. My hair is thicker than it's been in a really long time. I like get better sleep. And I had that same thing. Like I thought I was healthy on plant-based until I started adding meat back into my diet. And then I was like, whoa, this
Like,
is
oh,
what feeling good feels like.
yep.
It's crazy. It's super eye-opening, even though I'm currently getting over a cold right now, and you'll probably all hear that in my voice. I have this nice rasp. So what was your like, so you kind of had a pivotal moment in 2020, not only with breath work, but with some health things. Do you want to share a little bit about that?
Yeah. So as we're talking about health right now, part of my journey is after the car accident that I was in, I had to go in for multiple reconstructive surgeries. And I'll get into this in a little bit, but in my early 20s, I just kept feeling so chronically fatigued. Like I felt like, like the Energizer bunny, like, but like on that one bar at the very bottom, like about to go clunk, clunk, clunk. That's how I felt in my 20s and early 30s. Like I was doing everything. I was working out like at different points because I tried everything. And then if it wasn't working, I'd like fall off of it. But I was working out like a maniac to the point where I could have like done fitness competitions. I was eating so healthy. I was basically anything health related. I was like reaching out for. I was exercising regularly and nothing. Like the fatigue that I had, and it was just getting worse and worse and worse to the point where I remember like friends would ask me to go out and I'd just be like, I'm so tired. I can't. I'm so tired. Like, and I would be taking naps every single day in the afternoon. Like I felt like seriously, like an unhealthy 90-year-old. Like I did not feel like a 20-year-old or even like early 30-year-old. So in 2020, the month after I started my first breathwork session, I chose to get breast implants explanted. That alone was a three-year journey of doing research, finding the right doctor, finding the right person to do the surgery because it's scary. It's a little bit scary. And it all happened at Thanksgiving 3 years prior to me having the surgery. My aunt pretty much at Thanksgiving dinner, we're turned to the side talking, and she's like, when are you getting your breast implants out? And I'm like Thanksgiving dinner. And I'm like, okay. I feel
We're
like
going here today.
everyone's spotlight's on Amy. And I'm like, like, because the general thought is like, you don't get them out, you just get them like redone. Like that's like what a lot of doctors, like you get them redone, you don't get them out. So she that night, next day, sent me this article. And I remember, I think it was like Crystal Hefner. It was like one of the Hugh Hefner Playboy reality stars. And I'm reading this article of her journey and getting the explant. So this is probably like 2017-ish that I saw this, that in that article, like just something went, total light bulbs went off. And I'm like, crap. I'm like, okay. And then I went down the research rabbit hole and I found this Facebook group. When I joined this Facebook group, it was about breast implant illness. I joined it. There were only maybe like 10,000 women in it, which that is still a lot. Last time I looked, maybe 6 months ago, there's like over 100,000 women in it.
Well, the symptoms of it are so vast. And this is another thing that we don't think about. Like we glorified implants in a time. And I think even now, like it's going to be interesting to see in 10 years, like Botox and injection, like filler, kind of what those side effects are going to be. Because I mean, there are already groups popping up about it. I have a friend who does face yoga and she's in some of the support groups for it, but like we glorify these procedures, but we're not told about the side effects of them, which are vast.
So like breast implants alone, like I had the safe kind, they were saline, they were however it was. I was 20 years old when I ended up having them put in. But I was told they were safe. Like that, like literally they were safe, they were saline, whatever. the research now that I've done over the past years is, even though they're saline, the shell of them is made of hundreds of chemicals, and
Yeah.
these chemicals
PFAs, like plastic.
reach into
Yeah.
your body
Forever
and
chemicals.
yep. And once you get them in, they, like any artificial implant, whether it's breast implants or any other implant, it's going to form capsules around it because your body's trying to protect itself. So like that's like another unique deep dive that I've researched into. But yeah, it's wild.
So after having them out, was the transformation kind of immediate?
So of course I researched many women's journeys, and some people were like, boom, immediate. I would say I noticed big changes 3 months after. I think getting them out probably hurt more than getting them in, just because of the way that they have to take them out. And yeah, I feel like my body was not okay with having having surgery.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a huge thing. And there's like an emotional component
Yep.
to it too. Which we don't talk about, like
Yeah.
the energetics of anesthesia. Um, I've had 2 surgeries in my life, one to remove my tonsils and one to remove my wisdom teeth. And I had
Mhm.
severe trauma around anesthesia. And like, that's something we don't talk about. Like both times I woke up freaking out, and just had really intense reactions from it. And like the energetics of that, like we don't talk about that.
Yeah. Yeah. I just remember going in and I saw all the surgery lights, and then it was like lights out.
Yeah, that is and we don't talk about how scary that is. That's fucking scary. And when I had my tonsils out, like I was 7. They don't allow your parents to go in with you. Like they can only go to a certain point.
Mm-hmm.
I remember them kicking my mom out, and then they like put this mask on you that smells like artificial bubble gum. It's like it's a kid's thing. So like I
Yep.
don't know. And then same thing, like lights out. And then when I woke up and she wasn't there again, because I was in recovery, and I was like just had a total freak out moment where I was like screaming, like after tonsil surgery, like
Yeah,
screaming
that
on the
can't
top of my
be.
lungs. So they thought I was going to pop my stitches. They had to bring my mom and like gown her up and bring her into the recovery room because like even medication wasn't calming me down. But
Yeah,
like,
that's definitely scary.
yeah, we don't talk about that. And the same thing happened when I got my tonsils. I mean, my wisdom teeth out when I was like 15. I was pretty young when I got my wisdom teeth out. And my mom scheduled, my sister had to have a hernia surgery, and I had to have my wisdom teeth out, and just so happens like accidentally got scheduled on the same day. So like dad went with me, and he's like less of a coddler.
Mhm.
And I was like in a drug induced like stupor, and I was like running down the hallway freaking out. A nurse had to literally like tackle me and bear hug me and like restrain me because I was just like, I don't know what happens when I have anesthesia, but I like literally freak out. And it's so funny because one of my elementary school friends was walking in to get his wisdom teeth out. And as I'm freaking out in the waiting room, like after post anesthesia, he's like, oh, like, fuck, what am I getting myself into?
Yep.
And I have like no recollection of like the couple hours after I was awake after surgery, which is like such a
Yeah.
weird phenomenon.
Yeah. I'm you're probably glad that back then they didn't have the cell phones to like record
Oh my God.
record the
Yeah.
reaction.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is wild after surgery, the not remembering piece, and then the not being yourself and acting in certain ways, and then like the gradual like anesthesia wearing off, and then the pain setting in. Like it
Yeah.
is definitely a physical journey at that point.
Yeah. And like the energetics of it, like I think about it now and it's like, whoa, like I didn't even have the tools then to like unpack that.
Nope.
But I feel like it's something that I did end up dealing with, down the line as you're going through your healing journey.
Mm-hmm. Indeed.
Crazy. So you offer lots of different breath work, like ways to work with you. And I know you have some events coming up. So you want to share a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I have been hosting, I'll talk about the Rhode Island ones because that's where I host most of my in-person events. I have quite a few, like a full moon breath work. I have a couple of collaborations coming up in Rhode Island. And I pretty much do 2 to 3 breathwork events a month in Rhode Island. Then virtually, I'm doing at this point once a month virtual events for groups, and then I also offer like one-on-one breathwork sessions virtually as well.
Yes, and I highly recommend those. My mom and I did it for Christmas. Like I think it was like 2 years ago at this point, or like a year and a half ago. Um, but yeah, so highly recommend that, especially if you're like trepidatious about starting or you're new to this. I think doing it privately is kind of a good way to ease yourself in.
So question, because I know everyone has a different answer. What because I know you've done several breath works, so I think a virtual and in person with me. How would you describe breath work?
So for me, it was a little bit challenging at first because it's very different from yogic breath work. So the first couple of times I was just kind of like getting over that challenge of like, okay, this is different. And like, you know, your brain starts to go crazy because it's like, oh, unknown territory, danger, danger. But I had a really intense experience, the virtual breathwork session that we did. And I think you might remember my cat came over and like sat by my head. So she even knew that something was going on. And I had a very deep experience that time. When I did it in person with my mom, I think I was focused on like whether or not she was kind of okay. So that kind of kept pulling me out a little bit. But she really loved it. She is not, she has a very awful sleep pattern. And that night she was like, that was the best sleep I ever got.
Yes.
So that was like really cool to see that for her. Because she like never, like literally never says that. And then for me, it just gave me a little bit more awareness into the different kinds of breath work. And like, I always want to experience things because I want to share it with other people. And not necessarily through myself. Like I have different classes, courses, virtual and in person that I offer. And I also want like a community of people who are doing things a little bit differently than me, because I've said this a lot on the podcast, but I don't, I know that I'm not for everyone. And I want to highlight all of the other amazing people doing transformative work. And I think that, because in this society, we breathe so shallowly, and we, especially after 2020, like there is a rise in mental health issues, anxiety, depression, and like just the stress of constantly being bombarded by all of this stuff around us, I'll say, to keep it light. So I just want to keep highlighting people who are doing this work so that people have choices and they can see what works for them, because I think a lot of it is like a trial and error kind of thing to see what works for you and what doesn't. So that's why I just want to keep highlighting people who are doing work in the sphere, whether it's through body, mind, or spirit wellness. Sometimes it kind of hits all three. And breath work, I think, is a big one because we breathe so shallow. It causes like a whole bunch of other issues in the body. So if we can learn to breathe a little bit better, then we can get better sleep. Then we can find like that vibrance that we're looking for, that
The life energy.
Yes. I mean, in yoga, breath work is called pranayama, and it literally means life force energy.
That's what it is. Through just like I've facilitated hundreds of events and private one-on-ones, and I've done hundreds of my own breathwork sessions, and the cumulative like responses and outcomes is not everyone doesn't like. I sleep pretty good at night, but there's many people that don't sleep, and I have some clients that show me their Fitbits where it's red line, red line, red line, they're up. They do breath work. They sleep straight through the night. And I'm just like, just that alone right there in helping someone in one way with sleep, it's such a powerful modality, and it's just using your breath. Some other things people just say, reduction of stress and anxiety. I've seen in myself major habit shifts, whether it be adding a new habit or deleting a bad habit, like total habit shifts once practicing these type of modalities.
Yeah, I mean that's been a big game changer for me too, is like rewiring patterns. And like a lot of times these patterns are just imparted on us by outside forces. I mean, I think the breath thing is one of those things. Like I said before, it's like considered rude to breathe deeply, and like if other people can hear you breathe, like God forbid, like it's just such a weird thing that we've created in our society. But like we need our, one of my teachers used to say that breath is your companion for life. It's like always going to be there, and when you stop breathing, you're literally going to cease to exist. So like
you're no longer here.
Yep. Like even if you're not consciously doing breath work, like we're all doing breath work. Like it's it's one of the only constants in life.
So we might as well learn how to breathe good.
Yeah,
while we're
exactly.
here.
Exactly. And like, that contributes to better overall health and well-being. And like, who doesn't want that?
Yep.
I know I do.
After being through the muck of like being chronically fatigued for many years of my life, and then discovering breath work and the feeling behind like that portion of my healing journey and entering breath work into it, it's like my initial like 4 or 5 months of breath work was like, holy crap, I feel alive. Like I just felt like a totally different person, alive in such a sense that I haven't or didn't witness probably, or didn't feel like from when I was like in my younger teens and childhood, just because at 16 years of my life of feeling fatigue, I was in such a funk, and in breath work literally just like opened up this amazing feeling for me. Yeah, that's one of my huge whys, to let everyone else be able to experience it.
Yeah. How often do you practice breath work?
So I'm going to tell on myself right now. So recently, probably like three times a month. I ended up getting sick a couple times in this past year, and that's when my routine fell off. So
I can totally relate. I can totally relate to that.
Yeah. But at one point for a year straight, I did breath work, and it wasn't a full like 1 hour breath work session. I was doing maybe still the 3 high powered breath work, hour-long sessions a month, but I was also doing 5 to 10 minutes every single morning when I woke up. So I would wake up and it would be put some music on and just do a quick little breath work. And it just really gets you out of your head into your body in the start of the day. And it's just a really good way to set the tone. So I have done breath work every day for a year straight, but recently I kind of fell out of it. I need to get back to it.
Yeah. I'll reframe this for you, but like, is that really true? Like every time you take a deep breath, like, wouldn't you say that's practicing breath work? Like, I think so.
True. That is true. I think so.
And even, so I talk about this in some of my courses. Like I just did over the holidays, I did presence over presence. And, in it, we dove in a lot about breath work. And one of the things that I came across that I love to tell people, and I think is super interesting, that like when we sigh, when we breathe out with a sigh, that actually has a physiological change on the body where it reduces stress. So like, even if you don't know what breath work is, or you are not into this kind of stuff, like you're actually already doing it.
That is very true.
Yeah. And I think that's so cool. Like every time we sigh, we're having a physical change on our body. We're literally releasing stress. Like, I think that's so cool.
Yeah, the sighs are amazing. Like if you're going through something, having a rough day, just letting out a big sigh is awesome. Another one that I saw on a podcast and a person I follow, just a really good way to like get from like feeling in a stressful, like just daily situation is just two breaths through the nose, one long breath out. So it's just a simple one that you can just for 30, 60 seconds, take a walk from your desk at work, if that's, or whatever situation you're in, go out to your car, just, it's just like a very simple breath that brings you back and calms you down.
Yeah. I agree. So like, yeah, that's what, so one of the girls that was on the podcast not that long ago, Chrissy, she likes to kind of point out to people when she works with them where they're already doing the work. And I think this is one of them. Like, breath work might seem scary and esoteric and, you know, like one of those woo woo things, but it's something that we're probably already unconsciously practicing. So like, how freaking cool is that?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Because without breath,
You cease to exist.
without breath, we're not here.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, the companion for life. So my teacher many years ago when I first started my yoga journey used to say that. And at first it was kind of like a roll your eyes kind of thing, like, oh, please.
Yep.
But it's so true. And like when you notice those situations that kind of make you hold your breath more, the anxiety and stress increases because you're actually, by holding your breath, you're putting your body in fight or flight.
Yeah, you're not letting oxygen come in.
And your heart literally thinks, this is it. This is it. We're dead. Like, so breath has such an impact on the body. So like, yeah, let's learn to utilize this in a way that supports our health.
Yeah, 100%.
And it's not just like physical health. It's, like I said, body, mind, and spirit health. Like it hits all of those points.
Yeah. I think one of the biggies is like, even in breathwork sessions, like you can have like movements. It's kind of just like letting out energy. Like so many of us have just like throughout the years, something happens, we gulp it down, we push it down, and it sticks somewhere.
Yep.
And through breathwork, it lets you be able to release things and look at things in a different way than you previously have looked at them.
Yeah. So that kind of goes hand in hand with what I've been learning about our fascia and our lymphatic system, where when we push those things down, like it has a physiological impact on the body, and a lot of like physical pain that we feel is from that. So it's like if you've ever watched like some of the stuff from Human Garage, like he releases a lot of trauma in the body through fascial work. And I've seen the impact that lymphatic work has on the body. And again, the lymphatic system only works when we move. So if we have a very sedentary lifestyle, if we're not breathing to the full capacity of our lungs, then chances are you have stagnant lymph. And one of the best ways to get the lymph moving is through breath and through movement. So that's some new things that I'm passionate about.
Yeah, I don't know if you've heard the quote, the issues are in the tissues.
In the tissues, yep.
Yep, things get stuck.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And that's why. So I started with a yogic journey first, and then first of all, when you go through a yoga teacher training, it's like 200 hours, and then you could teach. And it's like, you don't know shit. And what people also fail to realize is in that 200 hours, it's only required through Yoga Alliance that it's like 150 hours in person. And then the rest of the hours is through like going to other people's classes or like homework assignments. So you're not even really getting 200 hours of like actual training. And then they just send you off into the world. Like, you're a yoga teacher now, and you have all of these people coming to your classes who it's like, oh, my doctor told me that yoga would be good for me because I have this injury, or I have this emotional pattern, or I live with chronic stress and anxiety. And it's like the average yoga teacher who has just done 200 hours of training, like they don't know how to support people in that. And
Mhm.
so I was seeing all of these people show up to my class who were having, like, I had this woman come into class. I was like a brand new teacher. I was teaching for like maybe a month. And this woman had just had bilateral hip replacement.
Ooh.
And I was like, I don't fucking know how to help her. I I was scared I was going to injure her more.
Yeah, like
So
maybe physical therapy.
yeah. And it's like, oh, my doctor prescribed this. And it's like, these doctors don't know anything. Like, these doctors aren't going to yoga. They don't know the caliber of teachers that are out there. Like, so I was having this whole like existential crisis because I was like, I don't want to hurt people more. Like, I'm here to help. Like, I'm here to help people heal. So that kind of sent me into, like you said, like the research rabbit hole. And that's when I went to massage school and I learned about how the body works and how the body moves and like common pathologies. So I had a better knowledge. And then I did all of the yoga teacher trainings. Like I have at this point, I have just under 900 hours of yoga
Wow.
teacher trainings, which is like really unusual in the yoga sphere. Um,
It's amazing.
yeah, but I just had to like I had a thirst for knowing more. And now that I have acquired all of this, like I have like the right people find me, right? So it's like the people who have had joint replacements or have their shoulders reconstructed. And these are the people that come to my yoga class, and yoga is a practice of longevity. So like I never want to hurt people. I want to help people live pain-free lives longer. And I think that's what this journey is about. And I think that breath work is a huge part of that, and learning how to utilize breath and to take deeper breaths and to use our full capacity of our lungs is super important.
So let me ask you this question on your
Oh, I love
adjustments
this.
for people with injuries and whatnot.
Yeah.
Do you just because I know I've been to quite a few yoga classes, but I've never really stuck to them because of previous injuries. And I'm like always a person in like child's pose or downward dog or just like a stretch. So like how much do you adjust depending on like the clients in the class?
So if
Or
you
do you
actually
just give
come
it
to my
kind of
yoga
like,
class, I
yeah,
never touch people in my yoga classes,
yeah.
which is really unusual because I'm a body worker. So like,
Mm-hmm.
but my philosophy is if you want body work, go see a body worker.
Mm-hmm.
If you're going to yoga because of the adjustments, like, no, like you need body work. Like you need
Yeah.
to get into those tissues. Like I think yoga is a great tool. And the way that I teach is very anatomically based. So I over cue, which to some people can be annoying. Like it's gone one of two ways. Like some people think it's super annoying. Some people think it's really helpful. The other thing to remember is that yoga was created over 5,000 years ago for 12-year-old boys. So if you're thinking about now, where if you go to a yoga class, 9 times out of 10, it's predominantly women. So we're cueing cues that were created 5,000 years ago for 12-year-old boys. And now we're trying to use those cues for women in their 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s up.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't fucking work. Like that's how people get hurt. And that's where it's become um like there are a lot of injuries that you see now in a typical yoga room. And so I recently started teaching at a gym. And so gym yoga is one of those things. It's a really weird thing because again, you only need 200 hours to teach. And a lot of these people are fitness instructors where they're like aerobics and like that's their background. Um, so their approach to yoga is that like they are making it a workout, and it's not a workout. Like yoga was created to help people sit and meditate for 6+ hours. So they had to move that, think about a 12-year-old boy, like the energy level is like very high.
Mm-hmm.
So to move that energy, they had like these really big practices with heat and just things to help. So not to help, but it's things that pull you out of your body. And that is the practice. It's like even in heated yoga, the heat is a distraction. And the point of the distraction is to help you stay in your body. So not getting pulled outside of you thinking about how hot it is, but just allowing it to be hot and being in your body. So I think it's really interesting teaching in these spheres. So a lot of the feedback that I've had recently is like, oh, you really explain things like, somebody recently told me like, I could close my eyes in your class and still know what's going on because of the way that you cue. And I think that that's really cool. And that was a huge compliment to me because, that's something I always aspired to. Like I wanted people to have these experiences because that was the experience that I had in my first couple yoga classes. I was seeing a yoga teacher who wasn't just a yoga teacher, but she was also a neuromuscular therapist. So she was approaching yoga in a very different way. And that is what I want to do because most of us spend time at desks or like seated, like we live in a very sedentary life
Or with
society.
the phones in our heads.
Yeah,
Cranked at the
we're
phone.
creating, I mean, through technology, we're creating pathologies that didn't exist 10, 20, 30 years ago. And I tell my class all the time, there's one pose in particular that you will never fucking see me teach in my class. And if somebody in my class, like, I'm sorry, I'm not shaming you, but I'm going to give you education as to why you should never do this pose. And that's shoulder stand and plow. I will never fucking teach those in my classes. And anyone who teaches those in their classes, I like fucking cringe. And I'll always educate as to why I don't teach those. So we are putting all of our weight on our upper back and our neck when those are the most strained parts of our body. And I tell people all the time, if you want that hunchback look when you're older, then great, keep going for it. Because we're creating that already through, I mean, some of us are going to be listening to the podcast and not watching on YouTube, but if you're watching on YouTube, you'll be able to see what I'm doing. But we're always crunched over a desk, a computer, a phone, a steering wheel. It's all the same kind of like hunched in the upper back.
Even with our pillows under our head at night,
Yes,
we're
yes.
still crunched.
Yeah. So we're creating that kyphotic spine, that like old person hunchback look. Like if that's what you're going for, great, keep doing it. But in my classes, I'll always teach more back bends and I will never teach those poses. And it's because now we're putting ourselves in that hunched position and now we're adding all of our body weight to that. So we're adding our body weight to a part of our spine that is not meant to hold any weight other than our head, which is like, like 11 to 15 pounds, depending on the person. But now we're putting our entire body weight on there. So we're creating more of a kyphotic spine. So we're stretching those back muscles. So the back line from the head down, we're stretching those muscles. We're locking them long. So now they're tight, but they're overstretched. And we're crunching all of these muscles here. The muscles of respiration. It's like, no wonder we're not fucking breathing. It's because these muscles of respiration are so tight. Our pec muscles are so tight. We're tightening the front of our shoulders. Shoulders are coming in. Like if I had $1 for every time I saw a medially rotated shoulder, I'd be a fucking millionaire. So we want to open the chest up. We want to stretch these muscles of respiration. I mean, the muscles are intercostal muscles. They're literally just muscles to help us breathe. And if we're not, if we're taking shallow breaths, then those muscles are atrophying. They're not strong enough to take the breaths. And now we're like putting ourselves in these bad positions, really. So I will never teach anything like that in my class. We don't do anything like that. If anything, we are doing all back bends. So we're opening up the chest and we're strengthening those back muscles. And by doing back bends, and back bends don't have to be the scary thing that we see, like these huge full wheel positions. Like you could be on your belly and just do like a little upward movement of the chest. I'm like, that feels so good to people because we're so closed down here. So yeah, I went off on a little bit of a tangent, but
it's totally fine.
That's how I and that's my hot take for today. Like I will never teach those. And if a teacher is teaching those in class, like that's fine. The most advanced yogi is the one that knows their body. So like if teachers are offering that in your yoga classes, take something else. Like if you want the same kind of effect, just lift your legs up, like literally just stack your legs over your hips and be lying down flat on your back. And that's going to give you the same effects of that inversion of like a shoulder stand or plow. But you're not compromising your neck and your upper back or your shoulders or your muscles of respiration. So there's like lots of little nuances that go into that. So, yeah, and that's not to like scare anyone away from yoga. Like I think yoga is such a beautiful thing. But I think that it's, just like in the healing sphere, like it's time to elevate the community a little bit.
And definitely like listen to the body. It's also
Yeah.
like what I'm hearing you say. It's
Yeah.
important to listen to the body, and if something's not working, kind of adapt and adjust.
Yeah.
Like one of my a few of my clients, I have some older clients like 60 plus, and I think like my oldest client so far has been 80.
Wow.
Yeah, it's amazing. So one of my like small adjustments that I might be doing in some of my like in-person classes is I've had the request of anti-gravity chairs. So instead of like getting down onto the ground, because in breath work we're not technically like moving, it's like
Yep.
you're laying flat, hand on belly, hand on chest. So I think I might be implementing that just as an alternative like way
Yeah. I
for
love
a few
that.
people to experience it. Because I don't want anyone to be like, I'm not comfortable getting down onto the mat and getting up, where if that adjustment, they might be a little bit more comfortable.
Yeah. Oh, I love that idea.
Yeah.
That
Yep.
sounds like very, like, I can almost imagine myself there.
Yep. Well, what gave me the idea, I did it was a small event in one of the salt caves, and
Oh, yes.
they had the gravity chairs. So it was breath work with the salt pumping into the room, and yeah, it was
That sounds super magical.
yes. And it was like the starlights on the ceiling. I'm like, okay, I can just stay here all night.
There's like nothing like that here in Arizona. And like, there's an investor out there that's listening. Let's
Yes.
do it. Cause like, I think something like that would like absolutely kill it out here in Arizona because people are one of the most shocking things about moving here was like people are very health forward. Like it's a very important part of the culture here. Like people do a lot of hiking, people do a lot of yoga, people do a lot of working out. They're very conscious about how they eat, even though it's very interesting. People don't really cook here. They go out to eat a lot, which is like so fascinating to me.
Oh, I would fit in good then.
It's so fascinating. I mean, my boyfriend is a chef, so like we used to love eating out a lot, but we gave up seed oils, so canola oil, vegetable oil, any kind of soy oils, like we gave all of that up. So it's very hard to eat out now without getting like unintentionally poisoned by these things. Um, so we haven't been eating out so much, which is kind of depressing, but also like you notice a huge change. And one of my friends was here, so I did go out to eat, and like for 3 days after I like didn't feel good, I had super brain fog. I was like, these damn seed oils, like it's definitely a thing.
Yeah. So you noticed a huge change.
I've noticed a huge change. And then when I do have them, like few and far between every once in a while, like I notice I get really puffy around the eyes. When I wake up, my whole entire face is like way puffier, and I just have this intense brain fog. Like it's just like your head is in the clouds somewhere. It's like very interesting. And then as that works its way out of my system and we go back to eating how we normally eat, which is like instead of using seed oils now, like we use a lot of beef tallow, butter, things that we were conditioned are unhealthy, but it's not true. Like canola oil was literally created to be an engine lubricant. And it was because it was a byproduct of farming, and they were looking for something to do with that byproduct. So they created canola oil, and it was meant to be an engine lubricant. And then they realized that it didn't work as an engine lubricant like they wanted it to, but they were like, oh, let's market this as a heart healthy thing to eat. And yeah, like if you notice like 75 years ago, like our grandparents, great grandparents, like I remember my great grandmother was using lard. And I remember, in health class, like that was totally frowned upon. But like in those day and ages, like heart disease was few and far between. And you can see with the release of how we've used seed oils, the increase in obesity and in heart disease has just been like more than tripling every single year. And it's like, you have to ask yourself, why is that? And
Oh
like I
yeah.
said, coming from a plant-based diet, lots of soy, lots of vegetable oil. And I was just getting to the point where like I didn't know I wasn't feeling good, but I knew I wasn't like functioning at 100%.
Optimum.
My sleep was all over the place. My hair was coming out. And one day my boyfriend came to me and he was like, "We have to talk." And I was like, "What?" And he was like, "The shower is insane. Like you are like I've never like you are losing hair like crazy. Like this is." He like was holding a chunk of my hair. He was like, "This
Yeah.
isn't normal. This isn't normal." And almost immediately, like I would say within the first month of integrating meat back into my diet, that wasn't happening anymore. I mean, I still
Wow.
lose like a normal amount of hair now, and I have a lot of hair. So like
Yep.
but like this was a whole other
Wow.
level. Like I could have made a wig out of what I was losing in a night.
Yep. It's so interesting that from things, because like in relation to what I was talking about with the breast implant journey I was on, exactly what you're describing. I have pictures of chunks of hair, the same exact, my boyfriend, what is going on? And it was like chunks of hair coming
Yeah, it really
out.
freaks the guys out.
Yeah. And multiple times I kept saying to get one of those kind of like mesh things for the
Oh,
shower to
for
be
the
able
shower,
to,
yeah.
yeah. And of course there's like this like nice floating thing, but then my hair get cut. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
multiple times of it getting clogged. But once the implants got out, I stopped it. Now it's just like a normal amount of hair. It's like this little tiny like piece of hair that comes out, where before it was like chunks of hair.
I mean,
Like
we'll
it's
have to share
nuts.
it in the notes, but I remember
Yeah.
you shared like a before and after picture
Yeah. Oh
of
yeah.
you like before you had the explant surgery and then after.
Yeah.
And I remember seeing that and
Night and day.
I was like happy for you. Like you can
Mm-hmm.
see it's so visible and noticeable. It's like it's really insane.
Yeah.
And like I was saying before we hit record, but um like I was set and ready to go get my breast implants. Like it was something I really wanted to do because it was something that was so glorified in our generation. And I mean, even now, like, I mean, there are people in their late teens, early 20s doing injections and fillers. And it's like, oh, like we haven't even scratched the surface on what that's going to do to people's livers. Um,
Yeah.
but I never ended up going through with it. And after seeing your posts, I was like, wow, thank God, like everything happens for a reason. And
Mm-hmm.
like I would totally be one of those people who were getting explant surgery because I'm a hypersensitive person. So I can only imagine what that would do in the long term to anyone, never mind.
Yeah, indeed. And it just like in what we're talking about, it's just highlighting how important it is to see what you're putting in your body, whether it's food, oils, medications, like whatever, even the water that you're drinking. Like it's
Yes.
so much more than just like one of these topics. It's so many different factors, but just to be aware of it. And even if you don't change everything all at once, at least start to notice like what could be making me feel not at my optimum
Yeah.
health. And like
And
once
just,
you feel not optimum to feeling better, then it's like, oh, what else can I do to feel better?
yes. And that's how it's been for me. Like it's one little piece of the puzzle at a time. And it's like,
Mm-hmm.
you kind of like, okay, I'm integrating this. Like one of the biggest things I started with, this is going to sound so silly, but I started with tongue scraping in the morning. And that was an Ayurvedic practice that I was like, oh, this makes a lot of sense. And now I start seeing it pop up in the mainstream, like Skinny Confidential, Lauren Bostic, she has been tongue scraping, and she's like, this kind of like pop culture, in the pop culture sphere. And to see her doing stuff like that, it's like, oh, this stuff is really starting to hit the mainstream now. And like, I'm happy for us, honestly, because I think I said this years ago, but 2020 started like, I actually see 2020 as like a great opportunity for humanity, because it really woke up a lot of people, and it, like, that energy has continued, and people are continuing to wake up to things like you said, our tap water is fucking crap. Like, for a, you know, a first world country, our tap water is like not safe. I live here in Arizona, and we have the highest levels of chromium-6 in our water. And that is a class 1 carcinogenic. Why is it in our water? Like, why are we adding that to our water? I don't understand. So one of the small things that I did this year that's made a huge impact is I got a Hydrovive water filter for our shower. My eczema disappeared. Like, I was having an eczema outbreak, and that hadn't happened to me since I was a kid. And I was like, okay, it was one of those eye-opening moments where it's like, okay, something's going on internally, and I don't quite know what it is. And then it came into my sphere, like, oh, you have to filter your water, because like the water here is very hard. It's full of arsenic. Like, arsenic is a poison that will kill you. Like, why is it in our water? Lead, like, we know how dangerous lead poisoning is. Like, most of the older pipes are lead, so like it's traveling through. And again, now you're talking about in the shower, so you're heating it up, you're actually loosening those contaminants in the way that the water travels, and you're more likely to get them. Our skin is porous, so it's going to take in anything. So that one little change has made a difference. And I knew it made a difference because, my boyfriend is one of those people who, like, he doesn't give a shit. Like, he just follows along, and like, he's happy to support me, but like, it's not in the forefront of his mind. But after a week of having the shower filter, he was like, have you noticed a difference in your skin? And I was like, yeah, have you noticed a difference in your skin? He was like, yeah, I don't have that like tight feeling after the shower, like dry, like tight feeling. He was like, I feel, my skin feels like hydrated. And I was like laughing to myself, because he's just like, so not like kind of oblivious to those things in the best way, but for him to notice it and like really kind of make a big deal of it, I was like, wow, this is like profound.
Yeah, that like definitely speaks a lot.
Yeah. So that was interesting. And I even noticed like that so the Hydrovive filter is one of the filters that filters out most contaminants. And I'm not sponsored by them or affiliated with them in any way, shape, or form, but I will sing their praises happily, because I think it's a very cost-effective filter. And the only way you're going to get rid of fluoride in the water is through reverse osmosis. And even some reverse osmosis systems won't get fluoride completely. So that was something I just had to come to terms with, because some of the filters that filter out fluoride are like $10,000 plus. I got this shower filter for $65, free shipping. It's made here in the US. Their headquarters is in Maine, which is where my boyfriend's from. So we were like happy to support. And the filters themselves are made in Georgia. So I was like, this is super fucking cool. Like, this is awesome. And it filters out most contaminants. The only thing it doesn't filter out is fluoride completely. But it filters out all the big things like lead, arsenic, any kind of PFAs, chromium, all the chlorine. So the water is just like, you notice it immediately. It's just different. And when I was washing my hair, like, I can use a whole lot less conditioner now. And it's because like after I wash my hair and rinse it out, like, it's not, the chlorine isn't sticking in the hair. So you don't get that dry, like crunchy feeling in your hair. So, or like already when you wash your shampoo out, it like feels silky and smooth. And that was so interesting to me.
Yeah. Now is it an actual shower head?
No.
Like the
So
filter's attached, or does the filter
I could say
attach?
I can just send you a picture after this.
Okay.
But it's just a small little filter that and it's so easy. Like I installed it without any tools, and that is saying a hell of a lot. Um, and they send you everything you need. So they send you the plumber's tape, they send you the whole kit that you need. And the shower filter lasts 6 months. So we've had ours for 3 months. And even with how harsh and awful our water is here in Arizona, it's still filtering. Like I can tell that the filter doesn't need to be changed yet. And so it's like one piece. It's like about this big. And you unscrew your shower head, and then you put the like plumber's tape on, and you screw it on where the shower head was, and then you put more plumber's tape on and screw the shower head on to that. So it travels through there first before it gets to your shower filter. And I've noticed like we have really hard water here. So you can see on the shower head after a while, like all of that calcification. And I made sure to soak our shower head in vinegar to get all that calcification off when I put the filter on. And we don't have any buildup yet.
That's
And it's been
awesome.
3 months, like almost 4. In a couple of weeks it'll be 4. Because I got it like right after the new year. That was like one of the things that I did. But yeah, something as easy as that, like changing our habits doesn't have to be like these huge monumental things. Like it could literally be something as easy as that. Like start with drinking filtered water, start with showering in filtered water, and then see what happens.
Yeah. And it's amazing when you start to see differences in the small things that you and we're changing. I think it makes a huge difference.
And it makes everything else easier. So like when you make those easy small changes, I feel like you're more apt to like go after the big stuff because you have like this solid foundation.
Yep. And I feel like it puts you in a different vibrational level. Like without having the filter, like you could be lower vibrating and kind of like Eeyore-ish. And all these different between the food and water and
and like constantly poisoning, like think about it. So if you're drinking unfiltered water and you're showering in unfiltered water, you are microdosing every day with lead, arsenic, and all kinds of other chemicals. Like that is crazy.
Nope.
That is crazy.
I would like a detox of all of that stuff.
Yes.
I did. Have you ever done a hair sample to?
No, but I just had a friend who did hair and urine, and she sent me her results, and it was crazy to see. Like she was like for lead and arsenic, she was at that line where it was like borderline, like getting to that unsafe point.
Yeah.
Like how does that happen in modern society? Like that blows my fucking mind.
Yep. I did have one of those back a while ago.
Before the explant surgery?
Yep. And different levels were pretty high. I think like my mercury level was high.
Interesting.
Yeah.
It would be so interesting to see what it is now.
Fish. Yeah. So like everyone was like, oh, dental or fish. And I'm like, I eat sushi, but not eating it like every single night, like maybe a cup every couple of months. So it was interesting to see that. And I did get on a supplement program, but I just think it's really unique that there's different things out there that you can figure out if you do have any of like the heavy metals, because heavy metals can bring a whole slew of side effects of how you feel.
Yeah. And it's like the leading cause of dementia, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, like heavy metal buildup in the brain.
Yep. Like the aluminum, I think it's aluminum in deodorant. Like that's like one of the main ways that aluminum gets into your body is through non-natural deodorant.
And that's like another really easy thing that we can do to optimize our health is just swapping out our deodorant. Like, I mean, that was one of the first things that I did when I like got on my healing journey. Like it wasn't this huge thing. I was just doing like these little small, I was taking these little small steps, and they make a big difference.
They absolutely do.
And it came to me because my grandmother had Alzheimer's, and She had like kind of a slow progressing long-term Alzheimer's. And I mean, she suffered with it for over 12 years. Like, and I was like,
Yeah.
I got to do something now because you create your longevity now. Like, I want to
Mhm.
be one of those people that lives to like 105,
Yep.
healthy, happy, and like just one day I'm going to go to sleep and just decide I'm not going to be here anymore.
Yep.
And it's
That
totally
sounds like the
possible.
plan.
Yeah.
That sounds like the plan.
It's,
Happy, healthy, still active.
yeah. Teaching, like, I still want to be teaching this work, like, as long as I live. Like, I will be here to support the people who are ready to be supported.
Mhm. I think that's the only way to be passionate about what you do and just continue doing it and inspire everyone around you that's ready.
Yes. And that's why I wanted to have you on. Like, you are, you literally, I said this before, but you literally are the queen of events. And like, you're an inspiration to me, because you are so good about scheduling events and marketing and getting people in there. And I think once people experience the transformation that like one breathwork session can have, it's like that's just another little thing that you can do to integrate into your life. And I think that's awesome. So with that said, what are some events that you have coming up? Like, where can people find you?
So I know in the show notes, I left a few, there will be a few links left. One is my website, it's amychauvin.com. The other one is my Linktree and then Instagram. Linktree is where I have literally every single one of my events that are coming up posted. The next few are, I believe I have a full moon one coming up, a special collaboration with cacao, breathwork, and sound healing.
Oh my God, that sounds
So
amazing.
yes, yes. And yeah, I'm just full force on events and different I have a few 4-week intensives coming up as well, where people that want to they've already participated in breathwork and they want to dive a little bit deeper. So yeah, definitely look out for those. They'll also be posted on all the things.
I love that. Thank you so much for sharing with us today. This has been such a great conversation.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I can't wait to talk again.
I know. Us Gemini sisters.
Yes.
Thank you all for listening. I will leave in the show notes where you can connect with Amy. She has lots of events coming up, so be sure to check them out. Now it's time for me to go. My body's telling me. Thank you for listening. Please feel free to like, subscribe, share, give us a thumbs up on YouTube. It makes a huge difference, and I appreciate your love and support. And I will see you next time. Thanks, Amy.